Hey guys, Adeline here from Adeline's Horror World. This is going to be a completely different video than usual. I came up with this idea really recently. This is something I've never done on the channel until now. And maybe one day in the future I might do something similar to this, but I'm not sure. So today I've decided to do an audiobook. Yes, I'm a little nervous to do this because I've never done anything like this ever in my life. Like, ever. Not just on this channel, I mean, like, in my life. And, it's going to be an audiobook for Halloween Kills. Yes, I got this book literally the other day. I'm not even halfway through this book and I want to do an audiobook. So, yeah, this is going to be an audiobook for Halloween Kills. Now, before we get started, gonna go ahead and give you a little bit of a warning. I'm not sitting here for 3 hours or even 6 hours to read the whole book all the way through. You'll be getting 2 chapters a day. I'm going to be reading 2 chapters each. Except for this video, I will read you the prologue and then the first 2 chapters. So no, I'm not going to be sitting here for 6 hours just to read this book. I'm not doing this. I will not be doing that. I do not have the time or the patience to do that. And also, I have really bad allergies. So my allergies don't have the patience to do this. They don't. They really don't. So, just saying that. And also, there are a lot of swear words in this book, but I'm not allowed to say swear words on this channel, so that's more of a me thing. I don't want to do that on this channel until I get older, at least. But, so, a lot of the swear words in this book are going to be replaced with more family-friendly words, or just they're just going to be taken out completely. So I hope that doesn't bother you. Like most of the book is still going to be the exact same as it is. And from what I've read so far, this is basically the exact same as the movie, except for a few changes, of course. Some deaths are different, but other than that, it's almost identical to the movie. But anyways, just getting that out of the way. So, this is Adeline from Adeline's Horror World. I present to you Adeline's audiobook for Halloween Kills. Halloween Kills, the official movie novelization by Tim Wagner. Based on the film written by Scott Teems, Danny McBride, and David Gordon Green. And based on characters created by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill. Prologue. The Shape stands motionless at the foot of the stairs, looking up at the 3 women who have imprisoned him in this trap. Their faces display a range of emotions: anger, disbelief, fear, but most of all, triumph. This is most prominent on the face of the oldest woman, although when the Shape looks at her, he sees a different face, a much younger one. The face of she who will not die. The Shape is incapable of feeling anything as he gazes into her eyes, but something stirs inside him. A need for what? Completion? Closure? Perhaps. Or maybe it's simply a need to see the life fade in those eyes, those stubborn eyes, to watch them become cold and empty, like his. Iron bars separate him from the women, and orange flames flare to life around him. He feels heat on his back, smells smoke in the air, but neither sensation alarms him. They mean no more to him than the pain of the injuries he's sustained this night during his hunt. Some prey go down easy, some go down hard, but they all go down in the end, except her. The women leave, but not before she gives him one last look, as if she wants to etch this moment into her memory so she might relive it over and over. The Shape understands this desire. Then the women are gone, and the Shape stands alone in the basement, still staring up through the bars of his prison. At the empty place where those faces had been, he thinks nothing, feels nothing, is nothing. The flames grow hotter, the smoke thicker, and he waits for whatever will come next. Chapter 1, Haddonfield, Illinois, Halloween night, 2018. Cameron Elon walked through the park in his bare feet. It was late October and the grass was cold, but no way was he going to try to walk home in high heels. He'd only worn them as part of his costume, and he'd taken them off soon after he and Allison had arrived at the dance. Not only did the things pinch his feet, he could barely keep his balance in them. And given how much he'd had to drink tonight, he figured he was unsteady enough as it was. So he carried his shoes, although why he hadn't simply dropped them in the trash before leaving the high school, he couldn't say. It wasn't as if he was ever going to use them again. Maybe carrying them was a small way of punishing himself for having been such a prick tonight. It wasn't much in the way of penance, but it was a start. He and Allison had gone to the dance dressed as gender-swapped versions of Bonnie and Clyde, the infamous bank-robbing couple from the 1930s. Cam's outfit consisted of a tan beret, brown scarf, yellow short-sleeved cardigan, now beer-stained, brown plaid skirt, lipstick, and those dang heels. Instead of a blonde wig, he decided to go with his own brown shoulder-length curls, and he hadn't shaved his legs, figuring that would make the outfit funnier. The costumes had seemed like a good idea at the time, but once they were at the dance, no one had no clue who he and Allison were supposed to be. The 1930s were ancient history as far as his generation was concerned, practically prehistoric. He walked through the small neighborhood park, oak trees, playground equipment, soccer field, rather than on the side of the street. The last thing he wanted right now was for someone to see him like this. He didn't need people honking their horns and laughing at them as they drove by, shouting through open windows. "Hey baby, looks like you had a rough night." He couldn't believe he'd screwed things up with Allison so badly. Things between them had been going well lately, so much that she'd even introduced him to her family. Her mom and dad seemed nice enough, for parents that is, but her grandmother was an absolute head case. Still, he had no room to criticize. His dad was pretty messed up too. That was something he and Allison had in common, nuts growing on the family tree. She hadn't been thrilled about Oscar tagging along with them tonight though. He could be obnoxious sometimes. Okay, most times. But she put up with him because he was Cameron's friend. What she hadn't put up with was Cam's drinking. He'd brought a hip flask with him to the dance. "It's an accessory," he told her, that's all. What he hadn't told her was that he filled his accessory with gin. Not only did he drink liberally from it every chance he got, he also had a couple of the beers that Oscar had snuck into the dance. He'd known Allison didn't like it when he drank, and to make matters worse, when she'd gone off to answer a phone call, most likely from Vicky, his former girlfriend Kim had approached him on the dance floor. They'd spoken for a couple minutes, making small talk. "You having a good time? What's the most ridiculous costume you've seen so far?" And then out of nowhere, she kissed him. Yeah, he'd kissed her back, but he'd been drunk and hadn't realized what he'd been doing. Or maybe that had just been his excuse. Allison had seen him kiss Kim, and when he tried to explain what had happened and how it hadn't meant anything, not really, they'd argued. He'd ended up snatching her phone out of her hand and dropping into a bowl of nacho cheese sauce. He hated her phone. Seemed she was always on the thing, interrupting their time together. But it had been a stupid, childish thing to do, and he'd instantly regretted it. But before he could apologize, Allison had stormed off, and he'd been too ashamed to go after her right away. When he'd finally worked up his courage, and sobered up a little, he'd gone in search of her. But he hadn't been able to find her. She left, and he couldn't blame her. He looked for Oscar then, but he hadn't been able to find him either. The three of them hadn't driven to the dance, and he hadn't felt like bumming a ride off anyone. Didn't want to explain why he was on his own, so he'd started walking. The night air was cold on his bare arms and legs, and he wished he thought to bring a jacket with him to the dance. He shivered and figured he'd probably end up getting a cold. God, could this night get any worse? He wished he could call or text Allison, but of course she didn't have her phone. For all he knew, it was still back at the high school submerged in cheese sauce. He could call Oscar, however. Maybe he knew where Allison was, and even if he didn't, at least he'd listened to Cam's tale of woe. Oscar could be a jerk sometimes, but he was a good guy underneath all the smarminess. He carried his own phone tucked into his skirt. He took it out now and called Oscar's number. He listened as it rang on the other end, and rang and rang. Pick up, he muttered. "Where are you?" A click, and then Oscar's voice. "Hey there, sassy lover, this is Oscar." Voicemail. "I'm not able to come to answer your call right now because I'm standing right behind you." Boo! A beep, and then Cameron began speaking, the words coming out in an anxious rush. "Oscar, call me when you get this. I messed up with Allison. I gotta find her. Gotta fix it. If you guys are together, if you know where she is, let me know, okay, bud? Be safe." He disconnected. Crap! In frustration, he tore the beret off his head and hurled it away from him as hard as he could. It spun through the air and landed soundlessly in the grass near the high chain-link fence that separated the park from the street. He was about to throw the high heels too, when he saw something lying on the other side of the fence, not far from the curb. There weren't any streetlights close by, but the moon was full tonight. How appropriate was that? And Cam could see that the object was human-shaped. At first he thought it was a scarecrow or a dummy, a Halloween decoration that someone had stolen and left in the street. But then the decoration stirred and let out a soft moan. Christ, it was a person. Hey, you okay? Cam called out nervously. Another moan, louder this time. Cam didn't think. He tucked his phone back into his skirt, dropped the heels, and ran toward the fence. There wasn't an exit to the street here, so when he reached the fence he began climbing, fast as he could. The metal links were cold on his hands, and they could hurt his already aching feet, but he barely registered the discomfort. The fence wasn't all that high, maybe 7-8 feet, and when he reached the top, he swung his bare legs over and dropped. He landed with a jolt on the small strip of grass that lay between the fence and the street, and nearly lost his balance and fell. God dang Jin. He stood, turned, and hurried toward the man, reaching him in 3 quick strides. The first thing Cam noticed was the blood. It lay on the asphalt near the man's head, inky black in the moonlight. Then he saw the vicious wound on the side of the man's neck, and he understood where all that blood was coming from, was still coming from. He knew that if he didn't do something, and fast, the man would bleed out within minutes, maybe seconds. He tore the scarf from around his neck and crouched next to the man. When he saw the wound close up, flesh torn and ragged, wet meat visible inside, his stomach lurched. He almost vomited, but he gritted his teeth and swallowed. Keep it together, Cam. This guy needs you. I'll get help, he told the man. He raised his voice and shouted, Somebody help! Help us! He lifted the man's head, wrapped the scarf around his neck, pulled it tight as he dared, eliciting a sharp intake of breath from the man, then tied it. He couldn't use the scarf as a tourniquet, couldn't risk cutting off the flow of blood to the man's head, which meant this makeshift bandage was a temporary solution. This guy needed a paramedic, not some drunk high school kid. Although Cam didn't feel very drunk right now, he felt stone cold sober. His voice echoed in the night, but there was no answer. He looked at the man, registering his features for the first time. He was older than Cam had first thought, in his 50s or 60s, with short gray hair and a high forehead. He wore a dark jacket with a gold badge on the front and the Haddonfield Sheriff's Department emblem stitched onto the shoulder. Cam wasn't a fan of cops. What teenager was? And he was uncomfortably aware that he still carried his flask, and that it wasn't empty. But he told himself to forget about that. Who gave a crap if he got in trouble for underage drinking tonight? A man's life was at stake. Hold on, man. Hold on. Officer? He took a quick glance at the name tag on the man's uniform. Hawkins, take it easy. Come on, please. You got it. Up to this point, the man's eyes had been closed, as if he were hovering on the brink of unconsciousness. But now his eyes flew open and his hands lunged toward Cam. He flinched, thinking the man was attacking him in his delirium. But instead, he grabbed hold of Cam's sweater with surprising strength and pulled him closer. His eyes were wide and wild, and when he spoke his voice, it was a harsh rasp. He must die. He needs to die. Then all the strength drained out of the man, and he let go of Cam's sweater. He lay back, face pale, but he didn't close his eyes, and while his breathing was rough, it remained steady. The man wasn't ready to check out yet. He was a tough one. Cam had no idea what the man was talking about. Who needed to die? But right now it didn't matter. He grabbed his phone and called 911. And while Cam frantically explained to the operator what was happening, Officer Frank Hawkins gazed up at the full moon, which looked too much like an expressionless white mask to him just then, and remembered another night, another Halloween, long ago. And there you go, guys. That was the prologue and chapter 1 of the Halloween Kills novelization by Tim Wagner. I was going to do the second chapter, and I've already filmed half of that chapter, but thought the video would be a little too long, so I decided, I'll just go ahead and post this part of the video. Hopefully later tonight you'll be getting my chapter 2 video. Let's freaking hope so. No, seriously, I really hope so. It's not because I was lazy. Yet again, my phone's almost out of storage as it is, and I cannot be posting videos or exporting videos that are like 40 minutes long. I can't be doing that. I'm not like some, like people out there who do audiobooks. I'm not like them, okay? My phone is almost out of storage right now, so hope that's okay with you guys. So, anyways, guys, be looking forward to chapter 2 of Halloween Kills. This is Adeline from Adeline's Horror World, and I'll see you next time.